Hello, I'm Joe from Carême cooking classes, and today we're going to make the Brioches Suisses. Anyone who's been to my classes will know them because we normally have them for morning tea, and they are quite straightforward to make, so we'll do it, eh? Alright, so I've done 5 seconds of preparation, well 30 probably. I've warmed up some milk, which is the first thing we need. We're going to put the milk, I'll do the yeasty part in a glass so that we can see it. I warmed it to about, it's supposed to be about blood temperature, about 30 degrees. Well, no, sorry, blood's a bit warmer than that, isn't it? Well, one likes to think so. Then we want 2 tablespoons of sugar in it. I'm using caster sugar. This is the only sugar that, they're a bit small, so I'm putting a bit more. This is the only sugar that goes in there, so you do want it in there. And the yeast goes in there. Now my yeast has been frozen, so it's gone a bit squishy, but it'll be fine. In you go. In you go. Normally I use the fresh yeast and it crumbles in, so it, but this won't crumble, of course. It's a bit squishy. Oh dear. There we go. And then that will, the yeast will grow and divide. It gives off alcohol and carbon dioxide, which is the part we actually want. But that will make our brioche rise. Now, meanwhile, we will get our dry ingredients ready, well, our stuff ready. We want 300 grams of plain flour. Now, for this one, we really do want plain flour. And we're mixing this with a wooden spoon. We think of this as a yeasted pastry, not as a bread dough. Look, it just works better. If you over-mix it, it gets tough. I've tried it. I experimented on your behalf. Yeah, really. Half teaspoon of salt. If you forget the salt in any yeasted thing, you are dead meat. Pack up and go home. Mix the salt in a bit, because it doesn't get mixed a lot. Well in the middle, and put in 3 egg yolks. We're kind of filling in time while the yeast does its thing. There's no shortage of fat in our brioche, which is what makes it good, of course. The other thing I did in my preparation was I got 100 grams of butter just melted. And that's sitting around waiting for us. And that's going in when the dough is half mixed. Okay, egg whites, I can use them or I can not use them. And that just sits there and waits. We want the yeast to be, well, it's hard to tell with that yeast because it's, I'm beginning to wonder if I should have mixed it up a bit first. I have used the frozen yeast before and it's worked fine. Normally, of course, I use fresh yeast all the time, but needs must. I had all that frozen yeast in the freezer. I felt obliged to use it. In the interest of getting on with the video, I'm tempted to just go. But, oh dear. And I always say you shouldn't play with yeast either. Oh dear. Now what do we do? We're going to mix it up a bit. And we are actually just going to go. The glass wasn't actually really big enough, was it? I thought I was doing so well putting it in a glass so that you could see it come to the surface. It is on the surface, but it was on the surface already, wasn't it? That is actually what it's supposed to look like. I know this yeast is going to work because I've used I've used it before. So we're going to plough on ahead. We are ready. Our butter is here. He was keeping warm on the stove. Well, just melted. See, just melted. He's got a tiny bit of unmelted butter in it. That's what the yeast should look like. It's just that we got there by nefarious means. Here we go. Plough on. yeasty mix. Make sure you get the sugar from the bottom. Break the egg yolks and mix it. Now this is a bit you want to see. Mix it halfway. We're using a wooden spoon. Mix it halfway, like you're mixing muffins. You know how you shouldn't overmix muffins? Okay, this one you shouldn't overmix. Mix it halfway and then stop. It looks a terrific mess. Terrific mess. Oh dear. Oh, you think, crikey, really? Yeah, really. Then we add the butter. 100 grams just melted butter. And we mix it more, but still not too much. This is not an overmixed dough. If you overmix it, it can be tough. And you want to mix it till it's just mixed, like when you're mixing muffins, or any cakey thing. You want it mixed, but not too mixed. There you go. And then stop. Tiny bit of streaky is fine, but mixed, not like dry flour, but tiny bit streaky is fine. And that, my friends, is the brioche dough mixed up. Interestingly, sometimes it turns out slightly different. Do not argue, go with it. There you go, he's done. I'm going to cover him with a tea towel and leave it. As you will know, when I'm getting this ready for doing the classes, sometimes I'm in a terrific hurry, and so I will sit him in another bowl, a bigger bowl, of rather warm water to make sure that he really rises. Not too hot. If yeasty things go over 50 degrees, you kill the yeast. But if you have the water about 30 degrees, it'll really make sure that the dough rises in a hurry. Okay, we'll come back soon and check that he's risen. Here we go. The dough has risen. And it looks puffy. When you press it, the impression stays. It's definitely good. And so we're going to take it out. We have our dough scraper. So the yeast definitely worked, didn't it? I was right in my confidence. We want to pat it out or roll it out into a rectangle. Keep some flour on it. Probably roll it. Rolling, I always say that if you want a square or a rectangle, roll on a diagonal because you're more likely to get the corners. That's about the right size. We're going to make 12. Ha, yes. Yep, that's good. Now we want a rolly cutter, pizza cutter. You bought it for pizza, but it's actually for pastry, of course. And then we want our creme fraîche out of the fridge. Now I had a look at this and it's like set, but normally it sets harder than this. I don't know what I've done. So we'll take a look at it. It may or may not work. If you cut it, normally you can lift it off. No, it's not going to, is it? Normally you can like lift it off and it lifts off as a bit. No, I think we're going to have to do it like this, which is not so much fun. Normally you can like lift it off and place it on. I don't know what I did. But we're going to do this just to, apart from anything else, just to mark how much we want. It'll work. It kind of helps. Okay, 2 lines of creme fraîche. The brioche dough can be used for anything which you would use brioche dough for, but this is what I use it for mostly. Ooh, a little bit more. The filling is, after all, half the fun. And the chocolate. We'll spread it around a bit in a very unsystematic manner. There we go, that'll do it. There we go. We want the scraper. lifter. And then we want chocolate. This is the chocolate I use, DGF Baton Boulanger. And the best part about it is where it says, oh, I can't find it. It says somewhere, oh yes, here, réservé aux professionnels, only for professional use. You can just buy it at more Wilson's. It only comes in that size though, so you can just use like normal chocolate, but this is much easier. It's the one that professional chefs use, professional boulanger use for pain au chocolat. That's what I mean. Oh, there's a bit much chocolate here, isn't there? A bit much crème pâtissière. Oh, look, the lucky person who gets that one. There you go. Me. We go. Interestingly, this chocolate is only about, it's 40%, which is not a lot, but it works really well for this. It's designed for this. It doesn't work so well for other things, but it's absolutely delicious in this. Let's fold it over. Oh, I didn't quite have enough flour under there. I said put flour on there and I didn't follow my instructions. And then you can see what we're doing, can't you? Rocket science. Don't want too much flour. We definitely want what is the bottom to be the top though, because this isn't so pretty. You want to handle it a little bit carefully and not too much flour on the top. And then, hold on, I'll wipe this. Okay, then we want to trim the ends off because then all of them will be delicious, and cut it into 6 each. Sometimes they line up with the chocolate, but sometimes they don't. Somewhere, here we go. Here I've got a buttered tray. Oops, crash, there's the rolling pin crashing. Onto the buttered tray. Just where you can see it. Normally I fit 12 on here. Here we go. Yep. Make sure that they're pretty. I mean, you can cook them like with their ends on, but we want them to be beautiful. Here we go. There is 12. Ha ha ha. Yes. Now we want to glaze the tops. There's different glazes you can use for pastry. I just use a whole egg beaten up. Some people say that an egg yolk beaten up with milk is good. Some people use egg white, some people use just egg yolk. I use a whole egg beaten up. It's probably, from an economical point of view, I'm not sure, but that's just what I use. There we go. And pastry brush. I do this twice. It makes a difference. But you want to be, well, there I was being rough, but you want to be a bit gentle. Because you'll squash them. And you want to do this twice. Once it's done now, and once it's done just before they go in the oven. So these are going to rise again, but they don't take long. It's really only about 10 or 15 minutes. It's quite warm in here. I've got the oven going to cook them, obviously. Well, I hope so. Crikey. So they're not going to take long to rise. And then I'll very gently do them before they go in the oven. So this is done now, and then I'll come back and show you in half a tick when they're ready to go in the oven. Great. Here's the brioche. They've risen. I forgot to time it, unfortunately, for you, but I can tell that they're puffy. They feel a bit puffy. They look as if they're ready to go in the oven. Oh dear, that's not a very good description, is it? I'm going to put another wash on them. The whole purpose of the wash is to make them charming, look charming when they come out. It gives them gloss, and makes them look rich and appealing. Which is, you know, you feed people with their eyes first. But with this wash, you do have to be careful because they're a little bit more fragile because they're puffier. So you have to touch them quite gently with the brush. And the oven's on fairly hot. I'm not particularly good at cooking in this oven. I actually tend to burn things, so I'm going to keep an eye on them. I'll put them in now. And then in the oven at work, they take 12 minutes. I can just time them and I know that they're going to be perfect. Perfect. But this one, I'm going to check them at 10 minutes. See how they look. Great. See you soon. All right, the time is just about to go. So actually, I'll just turn that off and I'll have a look. Oh, yes. Yes, yes. Ooh, what do you think? No, I'll take them out now. I took them out. Here we go. I didn't take them out. Sorry. I opened the door at 10 minutes and they were not ready. The oven is showing just under 200, but I don't trust this oven the same as I do my one at work. So I left them in at 12 minutes. They still weren't cooked, but this is near 13 minutes, and they look ready. Because if you leave them in too long, if you can see this one here, the filling starts coming out. That's not what we want. So they look beautiful, and I normally serve them. Well, as most of you know, slightly warm, sprinkled with icing sugar, and they are stunning. And they are also good. They're no good kept, but they on the same day you can warm them up again slightly in the oven is best, and because then they'll have a warm. So they'll have a slightly hard outside still, but a warm, squishy inside. They are fabulous. There you go. Thanks for watching. See you soon.